Gender Forking, a Twilight Saga podcast where we discuss Stephenie Meyer's seminal text, Twilight. I'm your host, Lori.
I'm Sam.
Today
Welcome.
we're talking about chapters 16 and 17, Carlisle and the Game.
Damn, we really out there. Okay.
I think this is a turning point in the text. Away from exposition and like setting establishment to
Plot. The plot has nearly arrived.
It's not quite here yet.
It's not quite there. It'll get here like completely at the end of this episode.
It's really interesting. I am compelled to maybe read another book and see how long it takes for world building.
I think it's so different with Twilight because so much of it is a romance. The romance is the plot for like the first 75% of the book.
I think that part of the cultural fluff around Twilight is that, like, people come into it expecting something different from it, maybe. Like, maybe there's, like, so many people that are dissatisfied with Twilight because they think it's going to be more, like, a supernatural thing, and it's a lot of
I don't know.
Romance.
I mean, vampire stuff has always been, like, deeply sexy and, like...
Yeah,
dealing
like
with
Carmilla.
kind of the same thing. Yeah, like, I mean, even... like Vampire Lestat and like a lot of vampire cult classics are dealing with sex in some way that Twilight maybe even, what's the word? Not sugarcoats, but like...
it kind of like emulates it for a different kind of audience.
It's not as graphic.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it's like a, it's a YA version of a classic vampire tale with some twists, I guess. But I don't know. I think romance is always part of it.
Totally. I don't think it's wholly satisfying as a romance text.
Yeah.
Because of, like, who Stephenie is and the way that she, like, refused to let it be.
Yeah.
Not that every romance book has to have sex, but... because it doesn't. But it's also just, like, not satisfying as a romance text.
Yeah. It takes them
And
forever
it's not really satisfying as, like, an action or, like, thriller.
I think it's very satisfying as a comedy.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm like, you're trying to make this book something that it's not.
Right.
Me to the author.
I didn't expect to think about it as a comedy, but we've literally talked about it every single episode.
Absolutely.
And I guess I just forgot how fucking funny it is.
And to see someone adapt this to be a comedy in a way that's, like, not the way that, like, that movie Vampires Suck did it.
Yeah, right. Not
like,
making fun of.
Yeah. Playing into the situational irony of, like, the information that Edward and his family has about the world that, like, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. Who's gonna tell Stephenie?
Should we do the Forks cast?
Yeah. Today in Forks, it is 63 degrees and cloudy. It looks like it's gonna rain this evening at about 10 p.m. through the next, like, day or so. The high is actually 63 and the low will be 49. Feels like where I want to be right now.
Exactly.
Shall we jump into these chapters?
We shall. Chapter 16, Carlisle. This is, like, the first divergence from the plot, like, the first time we step away and we get, like, someone's backstory, really, besides Edward.
Yeah, and this, like, goes really in depth.
It's actually shorter than I remember.
You know, I think that, too. I wonder if it's just shorter than Life and Death, because it's what we've most recently read, or something like that, or maybe it just, like, is short. It is a really short chapter. I remember being like, oh, I'm done with that chapter really quickly. It's a good chapter.
Even, like, only the first part of it is about Carlisle, and I was actually... struck by Stephenie's decision to actually not even have Carlisle present when the story is being told. Like, they go into his office and then he's like, oh, well, I have to go to the hospital. Edward, you can tell her the story because you know it and you've heard it many times. So I was like, what's the point? Like, why can't Carlisle just, like, hang and, like, tell his own story?
There's weird. So little, like, I don't want to say screen time because that's not what it is because it's literally a book. But, like, there's so little page time of, like, other characters in this text. It's always, like, a quick interlude of a conversation with, like, the humans. Yeah. And then it's, like, all very much like Bella and Edward. And I feel like it would be cool if we had a little bit more time with the other characters.
Which we will in Midnight Sun.
Midnight Sun. Yeah, we get, like, almost no Rosalie yet. Yeah. She's in the next chapter, but barely. And it's just, like, she's not really interacting with Bella. Right, for so we don't get anything. So we don't really get much.
I think the description of Carlisle's office is like extremely vampiric.
She says the room was how I'd always imagined a college dean's would look.
Let Bella go to college challenge.
Honestly, it just doesn't make sense. Especially just like the way that the American education system works to push students college bound, especially high achieving students like Bella. It would be a huge red flag to like a guidance counselor, her parents, all of her friends if she was just to like not go to college.
I think in Eclipse she applies to some schools.
Yeah.
She applies to like University of Alaska or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then
that's supposed to be a part of her like cover story is that she's going away to college far away with Edward, and like it's not supposed to be like fishy. I don't know.
I hate that.
Yeah. Like she's gonna go back to school eventually, you know?
Yeah, she
like
will.
Throughout the course of her life, but it's like, why not just let her do it now when she's like truly college aged and has the best chance of like picking up. I feel like for her to go through this experience like now would be better, because I feel like she'd be able to grasp more of the social norms and like pick up on more of that stuff now. And like if she was to wait like 25 years and then go to college, like it would be like, okay.
She would never want to do that.
Yeah.
I was going to do some research on London in the 1650s and then I didn't have time. But let's just all imagine that I did that.
Sure.
And that we all learned a lot.
We did.
I took AP Euro.
Yeah, I did too. How'd that go for you?
I don't remember any. I hated it.
I used to be so good at like history dates and stuff like that. And you say like London in the 1650s, it means nothing to me now.
Yeah.
Well, something that just like struck me was this thing like Bella walks into multiple rooms in the Cullens house and comments on what like cardinal location the windows are facing, like west facing windows, south facing windows, and the only place that I have ever heard talk about that is like plants. Like people are like, put your fucking peperomia in a west facing window and it'll be happy, or something like that. And it's like, I do not walk into rooms and know the orientation of the windows.
I never know what direction I'm facing at any time.
Never.
I'm always so confused when people speak like that, because maybe it's just us. Maybe we just don't know.
I guess I can figure it out by the sun, but
yeah.
I'm not going to.
It doesn't help me.
People that like lick their finger and stick their finger up in the air and they're able to tell which direction the wind's going. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Go back to Boy Scouts.
You're not wanted here.
Yeah.
I really do like the way that Stephanie lays out Carlisle's story through these paintings. It's very visual, and I can like, I kind of picture the beginning of New Moon when they're in his office again, and like we see these paintings for the first time in the films. I think she describes very specific paintings, which I thought was nice.
It'd be cool if like all of the people like had something similar to that, or just like we got to know
in
like
the house.
What pieces of their time periods are being shown through this. Like, through their space, like, Edward could have stuff from Chicago, whatever's going on there, like the World's Fair or something.
Maybe they, like, don't have things. Maybe everything that they have would be, like, collected after the fact, which...
Yeah.
Because, like, for Carlisle, a lot of these paintings, or some of them came from, like, when he was with the Volturi and, like, was being painted.
Yeah.
Himself. I just like love that Edward's like London in the 1650s and Carlisle's like the London of my youth. Like, take us
it's
all
such
the way
a
the fuck back.
Cinematic backstory. Like,
yeah,
like if I were to make this movie, I would do like an elongated flashback scene of like 20 minutes where you get like a little bit of like Carlisle growing up being taught to hate vampires, a little bit of like his father, a little bit of like the vampires around, the potato scene, like all of that.
The potato scene.
You know, like
we don't get it in the movie.
Totally.
Right?
The London of my youth thing would be like it would like send you in. Like I don't know how to audibly portray that, but it would be like the thing that set off the backstory thing.
Going back in time. Yeah, I think it's weird that he leaves. Maybe it's just so like Bella and Edward can have some of the private conversations that they have like while the story is being told, but whatever.
Yeah, it seems like it could be done differently.
All of the other Cullens who tell her their story themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is everyone except, like, we never really get Emmett. Well, I don't remember. Maybe we do. It's just not very significant. But everyone else, except for, I don't know. Well, Alice doesn't remember. But everyone else, yes.
Yeah, like Jasper tells it. Rosalie obviously tells it.
Whole chapter.
Yeah, love that. Can't wait.
And Esme, even in a little bit, kind of tells her what happened to her.
It's interesting. It's like, I wonder if Stephanie just like, this is her first book. She wrote it in a really different headspace, I feel like, since she wrote her other books, because she became famous pretty quickly, I want to say, after Twilight. So I'm wondering if she just wasn't comfortable with the characters yet. Like, she had a really fleshed out idea of what Edward and Bella were at this point, and she maybe hadn't just, like, developed the personalities yet, and even, like, in her head of, like, what these characters were meant to be like, and so maybe she just, like, wasn't ready for Carlisle to be in this.
The other characters are more just, like, the backdrop or, like, the plot device that moves around Edward and Bella.
Yeah,
perhaps.
Which is fascinating because I think a large portion of Twilight fans, like, latch on to the
side
background characters so much more than Edward and Bella. And I don't necessarily feel that way because I do like Edward and Bella a lot.
Yeah. We were joking even, like, maybe earlier yesterday that, like, when it gets to the plot of Twilight, we like don't like it anymore. Yeah. But I actually really found myself enjoying the more like dramatic parts of these two chapters that involved other people. Specifically, like the part with Billy Black was like really fun to read.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like what a great scene in the movie too. Like where Billy and Edward drive by each other and stare at each other out of the windows. Like I've always wanted to recreate that.
Something that like this section made me think about a lot was that Carlisle, I don't know if we've ever discussed this before. I don't know if we talked about it in the context of Corinne, but Carlisle has so much control as a newborn vampire because he knew about vampires before.
Yeah.
And he didn't really know much about them other than that they existed. So like the fact that he knew what he was and like had a small idea of what to expect allowed him to like save his consciousness. But like when Bella gets turned, they're like really surprised that she's able to control herself.
Yeah, and it's
which
like,
is weird.
You've seen this happen before.
Bella knew exactly what to expect, even more than Carlisle.
Right.
So it would make sense that she would be like on it.
Way more than Carlisle. Like,
yeah, way more.
They have so much more information about their limitations and like what kills them and what they're capable of and like all that stuff. It's like wild. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think this whole section talking about Carlisle like discovering himself and like wanting to die is very poignant. I don't think we really think about Carlisle so much as we think about the other characters in terms of their tragic origins. Like it's all very much like, oh, Rosalie, very sad. Like Esme, very sad. Emmett, a little funny, kind of sad.
Yeah.
And then like Alice, incredibly sad, like so dramatic. Jasper, like so whatever. Carlisle also, it's very sad. It's a very sad story. Like
he's alone for so long, craving companionship.
He is, and he's literally like trying to not eat, trying to drown himself, trying to
completely deny his nature.
Yeah, like he has that same traumatic like backstory that I feel like people don't think about him that way. I don't know why, but he's able to relate more to Esme in their shared experience of trying to kill themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And like all of that I feel is like maybe not so much what people think of when they think of Carlisle, who's the creator of their family.
And who's like so compassionate. I mean, maybe not like nomads, but like these vampires that have like a conscience or like some sort of moral code outside of what would be expected of a vampire or a monster. Like it is probably considered traumatic for all of them because you're like ripped from your existence and like your whole body is transformed and like becomes something unfamiliar.
Yeah.
That alone, like even without like the killing aspect would be traumatic.
Edward is talking here about Carlisle wandering by night, seeking the loneliest places, loathing himself, and, like, just this, like, self-hatred and, like, disgust with himself. Like, what I'm thinking through this is, like, it must be really frustrating for him to watch Edward thinking the same things for quite a long time. Because, like, it seems like Carlisle's kind of gotten over this, like, feeling of disgust, and probably through the creation of his family, who he, like, deeply loves, he's like, oh, they're not monsters, so, like, how could I be a monster?
Right.
And, like, to watch Edward go through the same thought processes that it seems like he was having of, like, this, like, disgust and, like, loathing, it must be, like, really exhausting to watch him go down that same path of, like, self-hatred.
The only thing that brings Edward out of that is, like, by the end of the series, when Bella's a vampire and they're together, like, by then he's kind of lifted out of that because of that connection that he has that he was lacking for a long time, even though he had family.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's interesting, like, the way that Stephanie literally, like, heterosexually couples every single one of these vampires, and, like, it seems like they cannot be at peace with their creation or, like, their, like, selves until they've found a mate, which is, like, such an interesting thing, because you think about even, like, the the covens that come through.
Think about James and Victoria.
Yeah. Like, many of them are, like, either in a partnership or they're suggested to be interested in someone, like Laurent and Irina. It's, like, suggested that they're all looking for that in some way.
It's almost like a parallel. It's not really explicitly described this way, but it's almost a parallel to, like, the imprinting with the wolves. Like
yeah, like the what do they call it, the singer, like, thing?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like fated, like the idea that mate, like a mate, quote unquote, is like stronger than what it is for humans, that it's inevitable and that it lasts forever. Yeah, it's sort of like supposed to be the ultimate appeal of this saga. Totally. That like love is everlasting and like all powerful and like predestined.
Yeah, and the only thing that can make you like whole or like at peace with yourself is finding that person. And then arguably, like, for some people, for women, having a child. There's obviously exceptions because it's, like, not possible for the vampires to have children. Right. But it's, like, you should want it.
Yeah, like, you have to mourn the loss of your human biology and your reproductive capability.
Which is interesting. Alice never does.
Yeah, we never even get any semblance that, like, Alice would be pressured into feeling that way, and she never suggests that she wants it. That's so strange, honestly. And we're supposed to be like, oh, Bella really got it all because she got the baby and the immortality and the husband. Yeah.
She didn't get that college degree, though.
She did not get the degree. On 337, when Edward is describing the first time Carlisle drinks animal blood purely by accident, he says his strength returns. He realizes there's an alternative. Had he not eaten venison in his former life, how would that help? How would that help to have eaten a deer as a human? I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not vegetarianism.
No.
Eating meat as a human.
Edward's metaphors and parallels and, like, similes just, like, don't track. They
don't make sense. Yeah.
He really thinks he's doing something every single time.
He never is.
Every single time he's just not doing it.
He, like, completely forgets about what it's like to eat food. I think maybe we even said this, but it's like the Gabriel Gundocker Vine about music, the guy who likes music. Is this food? I love food.
I sure do love that sweet, sweet food. Oh, this isn't food? Yeah. You know, it's like Edward compares himself to like a demon. I don't know. It's just like, man, you're really trapped by Christianity.
It's so strange. Like, he has hardly any memories of his human life, but he remembers Christianity and latches onto it that much. Like,
he remembers Christianity. He latches onto that. He remembers gender norms and like
this so does not track.
Courtship and like it's like he's tied to these social norms and like the vocal cadence of the time he was born, and then like everything else is gone. It's like, no ma'am, that's not how it works.
I mean, I guess it would make sense that like the things that are ingrained in you unconsciously would stay. Yeah. Because like at that point they become part of your personality, I guess.
I don't know.
Like, I guess how much of your personality can come through. It must be different for Edward too, because he was created by Carlisle, raised in a certain way, rather than like created by someone who wasn't going to make him be a vegetarian, and then he'd probably lose more of those things.
We get a little bit more mechanical details about vampire, and by that I mean we just learn that they don't have to breathe.
They don't have to breathe.
It's just a habit, but in order to get their sense of smell, they have to breathe, and it becomes uncomfortable for them to not breathe, as well as I think we discover this later in, like, Breaking Dawn. Part of their act is to consistently breathe. Though, to be honest, if someone wasn't breathing in front of me, but they were still, like, blinking...
I wouldn't notice.
Yeah. I'm not, like, watching people breathe and shit. You'd have to get real close to someone before you realize they weren't breathing.
I always forget that we get a little bit of the Volturi in this little section, but he doesn't explain what they are.
That's another thing, like, the Volturi are, like, there's so many people in the Twilight fandom who really, really love and latch onto the Volturi. And they are given so little to work with.
So little.
That it's, like, really incredible that they love these characters so
I think
deeply.
That Fanon is incredible. Like, when a fandom takes characters that get nothing and then create all these headcanons that become largely accepted by that fandom.
Yeah.
That is so fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
The guide has a lot more backstory for some of these characters, but still not very much.
Right. I can't imagine, like, people that, like, the Volturi are, like, their favorite characters. Like, what are you gonna do, sit and watch New Moon every day?
Maybe they do.
They might. They must. If that's who they love, that's what they have. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
So shout out to all the Volturi lovers out there. There's this conversation about how Carlisle is working in the hospital and how it took him years and years to get to the point where he was able to be around human blood confidently with, like, complete self-control and, like, just so sure that he will never lose control no matter how good the blood smells. And it's like, hot take, I feel like the Cullen children should be working on that actively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if you're
what
gonna
a good skill to have.
Yeah, if you're gonna be a vegetarian vampire and you never intend to drink blood again, you might as well go through the process of, like, trying to become immune to the smell of blood. Because it seems like, I think it's kind of explained in the books this way, that, like, as they spend more time closer and closer to Bella, some of them develop that stronger aversion.
Edward
or, like,
says he does by Eclipse.
Stronger self-control, and, like, not all of them are doing that, and it's like, you probably should be.
And it's, like, probably as simple as, like, Carlisle bringing home a blood bag from the hospital and then just, like, opening it and, like, sitting in the scent of, like blood that is not even inside a body and, like, becoming used to that.
Yeah, like, there's safe ways to do it. Like, they could go out into the middle of nowhere and just, like, bring some blood with them. And just, like, there's no harm in... I don't think this is true. Like, there's no harm in them drinking a little bit of human blood as, like, a slip-up if it's already, like... If it's been, like, humanely harvested. You know? If they're working on, like, trying to become immune to the, like, lure of human blood, like, I just feel like they should be doing it, and it's kind of like a risk reduction strategy to, like, just, like, work on that as people who are going to be around. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong in a high school setting where someone could, like, fall and skin their knee. Like, what happens? Yeah,
I know. Like people are on their periods. Like, every day.
Yeah, every day somebody's bleeding.
Girls are almost hit by vans in the parking lot.
Yeah. If you think about it, like, I'm sure that at any given high school, maybe not Forks High School since it's so small, but I feel like someone was bleeding every day at my high school.
If there's, like, a fight. Yeah.
There's fights, people trip and fall, like, paper cuts, like, small things. If you're going to be in any human situation around humans.
Stephanie really did use the paper cut thing.
She did.
She ran with it.
She did. It's like, has that literally never happened in front of Jasper at school before? Like, somebody hasn't gotten a paper cut?
I know. Maybe Alice is, like, searching the future constantly, like, looking for paper cuts. How fucking boring.
But, like, what is she gonna do if she's not in class with Jasper? Like, run in and be like, we have a family emergency, Jasper's gotta go now. Like, like, what do you do? I don't know.
I can't even imagine Alice speaking out loud in class.
Can you? I feel like she'd be really annoying. She'd just be really annoying. I feel like people in high school, they're never... Okay, here's the thing. Vampires are never tired. I used to get
She'd just be aggressively chipper.
Yeah, I used to get so offended when people were, like, not tired in the morning in high school. When people were, like, on and ready at, like, 7 a.m., I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? That's what tips you off to being a vampire.
Edward kind of gets to the point of the story where Carlisle is turning him into a vampire. I got, like, mild Frankenstein vibes from this.
Yeah.
It's different because... It reminds me more of, like, Frankenstein's monster and Frankenstein's bride than, like, Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, because Frankenstein was trying to, like, take life and death into his own hands and, like, reanimate a corpse and, like...
For sure.
But for a very different reason as Carlisle. I guess Carlisle is doing that, but Frankenstein was doing it to, like, play God.
Yeah, and then Frankenstein's bride was created for companionship.
It just kind of reminded me of that, the way that Carlisle kind of, like, meticulously went about finding someone that he could turn into a vampire and to create a companion.
It's interesting. This little thing right here, like, between Carlisle being with the Volturi and then coming to the New World, he's really lonely, and he doesn't really find many others like himself. I'm curious, like, when along those travels did he meet all the others that we know that he's in contact with from Breaking Dawn? Like, did he literally travel the world? Like, did he go to Ireland and find the Irish coven, and then...
I mean, it sounds like he kind of went around Europe, but at the bottom of 339, it says it took Carlisle 2 centuries of torturous effort to perfect his self-control. So a lot of time has passed in just, like, a paragraph in which he's just kind of, like, doing vampire stuff. It skips a lot. So he must be traveling around.
So he's not really in Italy until, like, the 1800s.
Yeah, it seems like that.
Because it's like, okay, 1650s to like 1850s.
Yeah.
And then for 50 years, he's in the U.S. until, like, Edward is...
He's there until 1918. He's in Chicago. Like, that's...
Yeah. So there's 200 years of a gap where Carlisle's presumably just, like, fucking studying. Like, what's he...
Yeah. Being a doctor for 200 years.
Yeah.
And making vampire friends, I guess.
I guess, like...
And none of them want to convert to his way of living.
Yeah, that's honestly...
He's like valid. The ultimate missionary.
Yeah. I think it'd be more compelling for people to become vampires to become vegetarians, sorry, if the blood of the people that they were drinking had an impact on them. Like, say you go through the plague or, like, the influenza and you accidentally drink the blood of a sick person and then you have some sort of effect. Like, I think that would be, like, a cool, fun motivation to be a vegetarian. But it's like, if you can just drink blood. Yeah,
there's no stakes for them. Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Yeah. Kind of the ultimate test of morality. And it's also, like, from their perspective, like, it doesn't, like, it's perfectly moral. It's like food chain, you know?
Yeah. It's, like, so inconsequential.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not on Carlisle's side, apparently.
Realistically, I don't know what I would do if I were a vampire. I don't know that I would. I'm sure that there's, like, vampires out there that are, like, PETA activists for eating humans instead of eating.
Right.
It's, like, environmentally friendly to eat humans also.
Right.
Because they're the ones that are destroying the world. I'm sure that there's people out there that are like, well, it's inhumane of you to eat animals. I'm just thinking of, like, vampire influencers who are, like, doing, like, #meatless Mondays and, like, eating, like, a ram or something instead of a human. They're like, I haven't made a full transition to vegetarianism, but I'm cutting back on my human meat. Like,
I feel like if I were a vampire, I think what might drive me to vegetarianism wouldn't be, like, the ethics of eating humans or not. It would be the fact that being a vegetarian allows the sort of companionship that Carlisle builds, leads to a more stable lifestyle.
Yeah.
That would probably be the biggest appeal to me.
Yeah, I think, like, the anxiety of trying to blend in with humanity and, like, being found out would be...
Just, like, living in the woods, like, I don't know, you don't even sleep. Like, you're just awake all the time, like, doing
what are you doing? Yeah.
These nomads don't have homes. Like, what are they doing?
I don't know.
Are they just fucking all the time?
Everywhere.
Probably.
There could be one right outside right now.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah.
So 342.
Yeah.
Edward has this period of rebellion, like, in his quote-unquote adolescence as a vampire.
Yeah.
He must have been kind of like a different person back then to do this.
Yeah, like, what? Yeah, I can't imagine his current personality and, like, his current ethics and morals and whatever, but kind of, because, you know, he's really selective about who he's gonna eat.
He is, yeah, but it's funny because, like, the only reason he goes off, presumably, is because he feels like Carlisle is quote-unquote curbing his appetite. It must have been really taking a toll. I don't know, like, he didn't even know what he was missing, I guess.
He says that he wasn't sold on his life of abstinence, and it's like, don't use that word to talk about eating people.
And it's like, you're one to talk.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like they've already established that Edward is a virgin. It would be more fun, I feel, if he had gone out and had, like, a real jazzy time. When was this?
Real
like,
raunchy times.
10 years after he was created? That's like...
I guess presumably Esme's already around.
I guess. It's like, is this... the Roaring 20s? What year was he created?
1918.
So it's like just before the stock market crash. He's
is
like,
this the Great Depression?
Doing a razzle.
It's Edward's Great Depression.
Like, he's having a really fun time just, like, fucking killing people during the Great Depression. That's honestly kind of funny. Oh my god. He's probably like, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna have a great time, it's the Roaring 20s, I'm gonna have the time of my life, and then the Great Depression hits and it's like, oh, this is not as fun as I thought it was gonna be.
Right. I can't remember exactly what year Esme came into the picture, but I guess she was already around, so maybe he didn't feel as bad about, like, leaving them behind.
Bella acknowledges that she should be more frightened, but that she's just really more interested. I kind of relate to that. Like, I feel like for someone who's, like, naturally curious, like, this is, like, a walking
fucking
like,
fascinating.
Yeah, like, it's like a walking history book. If I found out that Carlisle was that old, I'd be like, tell me about the French Revolution.
Yeah, tell me everything. Yeah.
Like, tell me everything you know about every period of history. Where were you when this happened? What newspaper did you read about this in? Like, tell me what you heard about the Russian Revolution. What do you think? What do you think now? Like, that's so cool.
And then at the top of 343, it sort of alludes to Bella's almost assault, which was wild. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
He's talking about how he justified the people he killed by killing predators, basically. And she said, I shivered, imagining only too clearly what he described. The alley at night, the frightened girl, the dark man behind her, and Edward. Edward as he hunted, terrible and glorious, as a young god, unstoppable. Would she have been grateful, that girl, or more frightened than before? I'm like, talk about your trauma.
Yeah, honestly. If I were a vampire, I feel like I would go the Rosalie route of, like, killing predators, but then not eating them. Because she, like, fucking destroys them, but she refuses to drink their blood because she feels like it's below her. Am I creating that?
I don't know if that's her
justification.
Reasoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't remember. It could be.
I feel like that would be me. I feel like I would hear, oh, like, Brock Turner did some fuck shit, and I'd be like, he's canceled, he's over. Like, all of these high-profile cases, mysteriously the men end up dead. What happened?
What's happened?
It was me. I'm a vampire now.
But that would be totally against the Volturi rules, because you'd be, like, making headlines.
Yeah.
Even if people didn't know what was going on.
I guess.
So you could only do bad people who were not making the papers.
I'd have to, like, pay off the papers not to run the stories and just kill them.
You'd have to be a journalist.
I'd have to be a journalist. You're right.
Wow. This is a great story. I like this novel we're writing. Okay, so we know from this page that the river that the Cullens live by is the Solduck River.
Yeah.
I was so thrilled.
I read that and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Sam
so now
did
we know
that.
we know exactly kind of where it is now. South of the river, just south, because it's looking out into the Olympic mountain range. Mm-hmm. So presumably, like, when you look at the map, like, the north of that river is sort of like their backyard. That's not too far outside of Forks unless they, like, kind of drove way up along the river, because I think the Solduck kind of branches more east to west than it does north to south once you get above Forks.
Yeah, I would literally die
I love that.
to be there. Rip. I can't believe it.
I know.
Every day.
We'll go and we'll take that drive.
Yeah, we will.
We'll get on the 101, whatever, or the 110.
Yeah, the one. I think it's.
We'll just go. Should we?
What?
Should we move to Washington? Should we purchase a lot of land along the Solduck River and build this house?
I kind of feel like we should. Okay.
Let's get a grant.
Let's do that, and then we can rent it out, like the Cullen,
the Swan House.
Like. You can make it like a...
Yeah.
But we could do it like...
profitable.
I feel like we'd have to like pander to the movie fans though in some way and make it like kind of resemble that house, which is kind of annoying because I would want to do it like this.
I mean, the inside I think could really look like the movie house because the back wall is all glass.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it would get traction because people come like to this town of Forks and they go like on like tours that make absolutely no sense to the books or the films.
That's true. You're right. And you know, there's not like lodging that's true to like the story there because like the Swan House is obviously like in St. Helens, Oregon. So like people that are making that Forks leg of their trip need somewhere to stay. And I feel like when we were looking for Airbnbs to stay up there, like there were some that kind of like decorated and had the books in the house and whatever, but we ended up booking one on the Quileute reservation. But obviously we couldn't go. There's not very much like Twilight themed like housing there.
It's pretty limited. What a great idea. We could make enough money to like pay off the project and like pay the expenses, then we can like donate the rest to the Quileute tribe.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's just do it. There are no rules. It's
life.
I
mean, why wouldn't we?
Why wouldn't we?
It's like...
Should we have a crisis right now?
Do you know how much everyone in our entire lives would like gossip about us if we moved to Forks, Washington?
I invite it.
Yeah, it's fuel for the people that think we're ridiculous, and I love it. Laugh about me moving to Forks. Anyway.
Great, let's do it.
Back to the text. Now that we've planned out our lives, we come up with one of these stupid business plans. Like, every time we speak.
Every time. Anyway, we go into Edward's room.
Yeah. So one of his walls is covered shelf after shelf of CDs. I would like to pose that I'm surprised he's not a vinyl boy.
I'm very surprised. I mean, maybe she just doesn't talk about it, but like it would definitely be vinyl.
Maybe this was written before like vinyl became
Stephanie
like
just didn't know.
Trendy again. Like, because I would argue that like vinyl has become more trendy in the last like 10 years than it was for the 10 years before.
You would think he would just have vinyl that he's collected like originals since the whenever.
I feel like he'd be a vinyl boy. Period.
Yeah.
I also feel like he'd be insufferable about music.
His room is a music room. There's like nothing else in there that she describes except for a really nice speaker system,
and
music,
a nice
and acoustic. Yeah, a carpet, and then like tapestries for acoustics. Like that's wild. That's all he has in his room.
Yeah, and his room is golden.
Yeah, the golden carpet sent me.
Yeah, I was like, eh?
Like, where'd that come from? So proud of my boy Edward in this section. He says, I was prepared to feel relieved having you know about everything, not needing to keep secrets from you, but I didn't expect to feel more than that. I like it. It makes me happy. That's on vulnerability, love.
See what happens when you open up? They're kind of like going back and forth. They're having like a playful moment. Why we didn't get this in the movie is, and why instead we got Hold On Tight Spider Monkey. Iconic. But in the book, something completely different happens.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. Going back and forth about whether or not she finds him scary. And she's like, I hate to burst your bubble, but you're really not as scary as you think you are. I don't find you scary at all, actually. And she's lying. She says she lied.
Yeah, she's being really sarcastic.
Yeah. And then he's like, you really shouldn't have said that. And I was like, ugh. Which is like what he says right before Hold On Tight Spider Monkey. And he like pounces at her and like holds her in his arms like he's a cage.
And she doesn't rattle around. He basically tackles her without hurting her, but like in a way that is also disorientingly fast. It's extremely extra, and I'm completely here for it.
Yeah, like if that had been what we got in the movie. And also it really opens up to this like other part of the scene where Alice and Jasper have walked down the hall and are like, can we come in? And Bella is so mortified.
Yeah.
She's like, my cheeks are burning. Oh my God.
She's like sitting on his lap and she's really embarrassed.
And Alice literally says,
they're indecent.
It sounded like you were having Bella for lunch and we came to see if you would share.
Go off. These like little moments, oh my God, like they're just so excited to have her there. Mm-hmm. Like the little bit that we get of the Cullens, like their personality absolutely shines through.
They're like, can we please hang out with a human? Like
right.
They just want to be around her. It's really cute.
And then they want to go play baseball.
So cute.
The way that Edward talks about baseball I feel is honestly out of character.
Yeah. I kind of think about it in the way that, like, I'm thinking about different things right now as, like, more appealing than they probably would be to me in normal settings. Like, if someone was like, hey, do you want to go watch me play baseball right now? And it was safe to do so, I'd probably be like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't done shit in months. Yes, please let me watch you play baseball. I feel like their existence is kind of like that. There's like limited activities that they can participate in because they have to kind of stay away from people.
It's so funny how she came up with this. Like the idea of vampires playing baseball, it is very American, which is what Edward says. It's just so different from what you would imagine a clan of vampires doing.
Totally.
And that it's almost comedic in itself.
It's something that they do, and it seems like it's maybe, like, unique to them, and maybe they've played baseball before with the Denali clan, but we know that at the end of the next chapter, just, like, a little jump to there, the other people that are coming are like, we want to play.
They want to play
like,
baseball.
They want to play baseball with them. Like, to be fair to James and Victoria and Laurent, they didn't think, like, oh, there's a human over there. Let's go eat the human. They thought, there's vampires playing baseball over there.
Right.
Let's go play baseball.
What if all vampires are just, like, inherently, like, infatuated with baseball for no reason? They just, like, see baseball really and they go absolutely feral. It's worse than their feeding frenzy.
It's so funny. It's like, are vampires, like, particularly, like, patriotic? Are, like, the British vampires, like, really into, like, cricket? Or, like, whatever British people play? Horseshoes? I don't know what the fuck
Horseshoes. Water polo? I don't know. It's funny, like,
British people
what is culturally latched onto. Yeah, British people. British vampires right in.
Yeah. Are the Denali, like, really into, like, winter sports? Like, are they like, let's go fucking ski?
Maybe. I would if I were them, honestly.
Yeah.
You could, like, get some really good skiing in, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're indestructible, like, that's the only thing that's stopping
Yeah.
me from skiing. I would never go skiing because I would break my whole body. I know it.
Yeah. I would probably do a lot more sports as a vampire.
Yeah. If you're, like, graceful and, like, you're not gonna fucking die. Last time, not the last time, this was actually in 5th grade, but, like, I played basketball in 5th grade at PE. I broke my nose and my glasses in one swoop of the basketball to my head.
How Bella of you.
Yeah. But it's like, okay, does being a vampire, like, make you more athletic or interested in athletics? Because Bella expresses no interest in playing sports in PE because of how clumsy she is, perhaps, but she doesn't seem to know or care very much about the sports that Charlie, like, watches on TV, and it's like, will that change when she's a vampire? Like, when they're, like, when they have thunderstorms, will she be like, oh, hell yeah, I'm gonna play?
I think maybe it makes them feel, like, more exhilarated to be able, and, like, powerful to be able to use their abilities recreationally, maybe. Like, it doesn't give you the same, like, they don't get tired, so, like, part of the appeal of working out or doing some of that stuff for some people is, like, the exertion and, like, the positive feeling that it gives your body from, like, making it stronger, but they can't experience that. So I guess it would just be the exhilaration that comes with running fast, which Edward seems to have.
Yeah.
And Emmett seems to have with, like, things related to strength.
Yeah. It's interesting. Esme doesn't play.
They're uneven, so she couldn't, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the end of the chapter.
Yeah. So it's time for our mini segment, Love at First Bite. I have created the Love at First Bite today. So this person is 19-ish. Their location is Italy. I'm giving you that. The pictures are just, like, a bunch of, like, sad boy selfies, like, with, like, emo hair next to, like, the fucking, like, Colosseum and, like, beautiful statues and, like, the Vatican and stuff like that. But they're just, like, you know, like, just pouting, like, with their, like, hair over their face.
Gotcha.
And then the bio is mourning my dead wife, don't text. And then the song is... Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance.
Oh my god. Which one is it? Is it Marcus?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I referenced the Twilight Saga wiki for Marcus's age, and it doesn't really give an age of like when he was created, but he's supposed to be 19.
Yeah,
which is like
be really young. So different from
in
the
movie.
movies.
They're like
50 in the movie.
Yeah.
It's so much more eerie if they're young, like if their age is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Swipe left.
Wow. Okay.
There's too much baggage there.
Yeah,
he's too far away.
He's like hung up on his wife. Yeah. Dead wife.
I mean, I think the emo-ness is too spot on for me.
For sure.
It's like not self-aware enough.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, Marcus. I will not be your second wife. Okay.
All right.
Chapter 17.
Chapter 17.
Vampire baseball. No, it's called the game.
Yeah, it's called
but
the
Vampire
game.
Baseball.
I wrote, oh Lord, here comes the plot. But honestly, not really.
Not yet.
Until next chapter.
Yeah. The plot is foreshadowed.
Yes. Bella is getting driven home.
She needs to
by Edward.
Change her clothes, eat some dinner before this game, which apparently is happening around dusk. Like, is it really dark in the field? Like, will she even be able to see?
That's a really good question.
I don't know. The timing was weird. First,
Billy and Jacob are at her house when she gets home.
Yes.
Yeah, the drama of this is amazing. It's something that I wish I could do to people when they make bad choices. It's just like literally point blank go warn them and be like, don't do what you're doing.
Yeah. Edward is like weirdly like he has no right to be this patronizing to Jacob at this point, but he is, and it's not the first time he's done it in Twilight.
And he's so rude about the werewolves. It's not necessary.
He has no reason to dislike them other than the fact that they dislike him, but like he should understand as someone who dislikes himself and his own kind so much why they do.
Yeah,
he should be on their side.
They're rightfully cautious of the fact that he could literally do so much harm, and like he's cognizant of that, and he's wary of like the way that he and his siblings interact with the humans and all that stuff. As soon as like there's someone who has the power to stop him and like from harming, he's like, how dare they? I would never. And
Right.
it's like, well, you almost did.
Get your fucking story straight.
At this point, Bella doesn't know about werewolves.
Right. It seems so misplaced.
It's also really disappointing to watch, like, two supernatural groups dislike each other this much.
Yeah.
It's so tired. And maybe, again, it wasn't tired when this was written, but having two supernatural groups feuding with each other is tired.
Two natural enemies, yeah.
And, like, solidarity between supernatural beings, that's wired.
Mm-hmm.
That's big brain. Galaxy brain.
What is not big brain is Edward being like, the child has no idea, referring to Jacob.
Yeah.
And Bella being like, he's literally just like a little younger than me. And he's like, I know, bitch.
Yeah, Edward's like, I'm 17 and Jacob's 16. What a child. It seems like Edward pulls on his, like, youth when it benefits him.
Yeah.
And distances himself from it when it's convenient to him as well. He,
Right.
like, is like, I'm dressed like you. I'm 17. Like, we're not that different. It's not that creepy.
Yeah.
And then it's like when Jacob is annoying him, he's like, ugh, that infant baby. Like,
right.
I'm so much older
that
than
newborn
him. And
child.
Like, immature people do that.
Right.
People who are mature and, like, older don't need to remind you of their age.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
it's true.
And distance themselves from children because, like, by nature they do that.
Right, it's evident. Yeah. Yeah, I love this dramatic sequence between Billy and Bella where they're not really saying what's going on, but they both know what's going on, and they're just, like, staring at each other and having a standoff.
It's made worse by Edward kissing her neck.
I know.
Before he leaves.
Asshole. At this point, Bella is, like, she's obviously in on it, and she's trying to, like, communicate that subtly to Billy. I don't think I can, like, make a full argument about this here, but I just felt the whiteness in this confrontation was quite evident of, like, Bella siding with this group of white vampires. Like, suddenly she's aligned herself within these two groups that have this rivalry that is, like, extremely racial, and she's defending them a little bit and, like, is willing to, like, go to bat for them already, even though she acknowledges that Billy's concerns are real and, like, come from a genuine, really genuine place. He's the only human, like you were saying, like, earlier, Mike is the only human who, like, expressed concern about her relationship with Edward, and now Billy is the only human who's doing that and, like, knows the context. He's a little bit biased, yeah, sure, but, like, he really does he's really in the right.
He is. He has every reason to be concerned about this. And, like, it must be infuriating to him that he thinks potentially Bella has no idea what's going on and is just being seduced by this vampire, and then for him to be kind of slapped in the face and for her to be rude about it, honestly.
Yeah.
And to be like, no, I do know what's going on and you're wrong. Like, okay, he's known, like, his family, like, his ancestors have known the Cullens for years and have seen what vampires can do. And you're like, they're different. Fuck off.
White girl shit, honestly.
Yeah. It's just, like, it's rude. It's like, this is a person that you could honestly, like, if she had played her cards differently and is like, I understand the risk. Like, I understand your complicated history with them. I understand this is really complicated for you, but I'm willing to give them a chance because I think that they're moral. Like, if she had the fucking guts to, like, have an honest conversation with him, like, yeah, I do understand, and I'm really sorry that, like, there's been so much, like, bad blood between your communities. Like, this could have been someone that she could have confided in because, like, this is someone who knows. And I think later on, like, Jacob becomes this person for her because he knows the context, but he, like, is implicated in a different way because he's in love with her or with Renesmee's eggs in her body.
Right. She does become this conduit between the two groups through maybe twisted reasons, but obviously they do eventually collaborate because of her and because of humanity broadly, but because of her really, and both of their ties to her. But in this moment, it's so kind of, like, ickily one-sided. It's
like, it seems really uncharacteristic of her to be, like, rude to an adult and then, like, into an authority figure. Like, it doesn't seem like who she is. And it's interesting, like, does she just not think Billy's deserving of that? Like, that's your dad's best friend.
Her main concern here isn't even, like, protecting the Cullens' reputation. It's that she doesn't want Billy to tell Charlie.
Doesn't she understand that Billy literally cannot tell Charlie? She can just kind of call his bluff and be like, I understand the treaty. I know you can't tell Charlie about me.
I don't even know if that's what he was going to do. Like, and she's gonna tell Charlie that she's dating Edward in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, she literally does, like, on the next page. So it's kind of strange.
Billy Black is not walking into her house to be like, Charlie, your daughter's dating a vampire.
Right.
Like, Billy Black's not a dumbass. Like, he's not gonna be like, let me just break this down for you. I'm a werewolf. And your daughter's dating a vampire. Charlie would literally be like, what? Like, I don't know what she's so, like, afraid of.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does seem to be centered around Charlie, which is, like, completely strange.
It's especially strange because, like, we know from, like, 2 or 3 chapters ago that, like, in the past when Billy's broached the topic of the Cullens not being trustworthy to Charlie's completely dismissive of it and is like, that's not appropriate, don't tell me, like, your views on the Cullens, like, I trust the Cullens, period. Right. So, like, there's no reason for Bella to believe that Charlie would now all of a sudden be like, oh my god, you're right, my daughter can't date him.
Right. It is weird the more I think about it. But it's drama, and we love the drama.
We do love the drama. But it's so frustrating. It's like Stephanie just wanted to play up this rivalry between them and, like, make Bella a pawn in that in a way that I don't think her character, up to this point, demonstrates that she would be.
I don't even remember. Like, when was the last time they saw each other? Like, why is Billy showing up right now? Like, he's on the porch, and Bella's like, he came to warn Charlie, and Edward's like, yes, that's why he's here.
Yeah, what does he know? Does he know?
Because they haven't seen each other since the last time he was over, right?
Does he think... Okay, this is, like, just an implication based on, like, the movie, but you know how, like, the nomads being nearby caused some trouble for Billy, and Billy seemed to be aware of the fact that there were, like, other vampires nearby. Yeah. Like, maybe they've kind of picked up on the fact that there are other vampires nearby, and maybe Billy thinks that the other vampires getting closer means that the Cullens have, like, called them there for some reason.
Yeah, I think it could be that. I mean, the last time she saw him, she was also in the car with Edward. So maybe he was just sitting on it for a bit. Because I don't know how many days ago that was at this point.
Maybe it's just a coincidence that it happens to be the day that she's going to literally, like, today is the day that everything happens.
I think it's kind of like it's a culmination, like the last kind of, like, warning that she gets from someone who isn't a vampire before everything spills over.
It's weird. It's just such a weird scene. I love it. I really like it. I wish their relationship was different, and I guess it does get a little bit different in New Moon. Jacob is just, like, a complete... like, he's just completely oblivious, and, like, he's just there, and he's, like, excited to see Bella, disappointed when they decide to go home and not wait for Charlie, goes out to the car and just, like, digs and digs and digs for a picture of his sister Rebecca that Billy claims is in the car, and he comes back in soaking wet and is like, it's not there, and Billy's like, no, oops. Like,
the audacity. Billy has it.
I don't know. I also don't know that in this situation, if I was faced, like, with this situation, I don't know that I would do the same thing that Bella does, where she acknowledges that she knows that the Cullens are vampires. I think I would play dumb.
Yeah, I feel like she feels pretty desperate for some reason. That reason maybe being the Charlie thing. I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah. I feel like if I were her, I would be like, I'm going to play dumb, and I'm going to let you figure out what to do from here, because if I'm playing dumb and I'm like, I don't know that they're vampires, I'm just dating Edward. What's wrong with Edward? He's a good boy. Billy's not going to be like, he's a vampire, Bella. Like, like, you figure out what to do now, Billy. I feel like that would be my approach. I don't know that we talked about this last time we talked about the Quileutes, but the way that they use this, like, language of, like, treaty to talk about the relationship between the Cullens and the wolf pack, because treaties in the U.S. towards Native Americans have always been, like, disregarded, broken, were fake to begin with on the account of the U.S. government being awful.
Yeah, that language is interesting.
Yeah, and it is ultimately the Cullens that break the treaty and expect the wolf pack to just be like, well, you understand the circumstances, right? Like, this is what we had to do. And it's like, well, you had a treaty. So. But
then pedophilia saves the day.
Yeah, thank God for Jacob falling in love with Renesmee.
God.
That's what I always say.
So Jessica calls in this moment. Yeah. And Bella's like, it felt like months rather than days since I'd spoken to Jess. And, like, that's how I felt reading this conversation. I forgot that this dance was happening. Like, we're in a completely different world. And she says all of that seemed strangely irrelevant at the moment. And I can totally see why, even though, like, maybe I could critique that that's happening. But I think that's probably quite normal. Even if there wasn't vampire stuff happening, she would feel, like, caught up in this romance.
Totally. Yeah. It's interesting, the pacing of this book. I think about, like, other fantasy books and, like, how long or short amounts of time they take place over. I think we were literally talking about this at the beginning of the episode, but like
yeah.
Harry Potter usually takes the course of an entire school year.
Right.
In their little plots.
Each of these books is like a couple months.
It's interesting. It's like
New Moon's the longest because of the 4 pages with the months on it.
That nothing happens.
Yeah.
I wonder if like Stephanie consciously is like, I can't let Bella age up past Edward.
I think so, yeah.
Ugh, so stupid and irritable.
I hate that dynamic.
Like,
it's so uncomfortable.
I'd love for Bella to do some growth.
Yeah, and there's just like the very real possibility that Bella would outgrow Edward. Like that could totally happen. Even though she doesn't think it ever would and doesn't want it to. She wants to be like frozen in this moment. So she finally is telling Charlie about Edward.
Yeah.
It's really funny in like a tropey way.
Yeah.
In like an overprotective father way.
I like just don't understand how people tell their parents about partners. They're like, yep, we're dating. And then like, oh God.
It's such a strange thing to announce. This is really funny because Charlie doesn't know which one Edward is, and he thinks that he just assumes she's talking about Emmett, and he gets really defensive because he's like, he's too old for you.
Yeah. Also calls him Edwin multiple times.
Yeah.
Like, definitely on purpose.
Yeah.
And I really love it. And she just kind of gives him some attitude and is like, you said you weren't interested in any of the boys in town. And she's like, Edward doesn't live in town, Dad. And
then she tells him they're going to play baseball. He's like, you're going to play baseball?
Yeah.
And he, like, this is when he starts laughing at her. And then Edward comes in and then they're both laughing at her. And I love that. It's like the one time that Edward and Charlie get along.
Yeah, they can like bond over how ridiculous it is that Bella would be playing baseball. It's interesting because the way that she breaks this news is perhaps by playing up his love of the Cullens by being like, yeah, this morning I was over at the Cullens' house. And he drops his fork.
Yeah.
And says, Dr. Cullen's place? Like,
he's so
your
jealous.
daughter starts dating the son of the richest person in town that you are, like, low-key obsessed with.
Yeah.
And then you have to, like, remember that you're the dad of a teenage girl and fall into the social expectation that you will be extremely wary of Edward when he hasn't really given you a reason to at this point, but he soon will. If I were Charlie, I would literally, like, talk to Carlisle and be like, what the fuck is up with your son? Yeah. After what happens in this book, I'd be like, what is going on?
I'm surprised that he doesn't, because, like, I think it's common for the parents of teenagers who are dating to, like, meet, we were just talking about this, I think, in a recent episode, like, to meet the parents of your child's significant other.
Yeah.
I think it would be realistic for Carlisle to go down to the hospital when he's on duty and, like, just talk.
I think so too, and I think, like, maybe Carlisle and Esme would absolutely fucking love that shit.
They would. They'd be so...
They would literally, like, invite him over to their house and, like, set up that, like, stage the house like it was, like, a very lived-in, like, home and be like, welcome, so nice to see you. Like, they could eat that shit up.
Honestly, really hilarious interactions between Edward and Charlie. They're, like, actually getting along because in the book, Edward is really lighthearted and can get along with fathers.
Yeah, I have the perception as Charlie is telling Bella, don't worry about the dishes, I'll do them, you baby me too much. I think he's just so happy that she's getting out of the house and spending time with other people, especially that it's like, it's not like a one-on-one date. Me, like, everything is in terms of The Bachelor, but it's not like they're going out to dinner and, like, potentially, like, whatever. He's like, she's like going to spend time with his family, so I'm sure he's much more comfortable with that.
Carlisle's gonna be there, you know?
Yeah.
Charlie's probably like,
can I
go? I want to go. Yeah. Yeah. What if he did and then they had to pretend to, like, play normal baseball?
That would be an excellent scene.
Yes.
In our comedy show, Twilight.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that I have about Charlie's blind acceptance of the fact that they're going to go play baseball in the thunder, lightning, and pouring rain.
Well, she does say, only in Washington would the fact that it was raining buckets have no bearing at all on the playing of outdoor sports.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't think the thunder... I think that's too much.
Okay, if I were Charlie, I would be like, Bella's lying, and it's a bad lie. Or I would be like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Whatever.
Yeah.
If it's thundering, you don't go outside.
Yeah, I guess maybe he's just super happy. He's like, you can do whatever you want. They get into the big fucking Jeep with the harness, the off-roading harness, which is so, like, cringy to me that, like, I'm imagining him driving through the forest, having the time of his life, like, maniac grin, like, so happy to be doing something like this. And then Bella, like, she describes herself as a jackhammer. like going up and down.
Have you been off-roading in a Jeep before?
No, but you have.
Well, let me break this down for you.
Okay.
When I read this chapter with newfound eyes this time, I became enraged because there's such thing as an off-roading harness, and I was never offered that kind of protection in my off-roading adventures. I literally, like, felt like I was going to be thrown through the empty, like, torn off roof of the Jeep when I've been off-roading in the past, and there's a fucking harness that prevents that. And, like, I'm sure he just didn't have one.
Yeah.
But, like, I could have died? Like, what is this?
Really threw you into, like, an athletic situation, which is exactly what Edward does here again. Like, he hasn't learned from the hike. I have always been perplexed by this conversation that they have right before they go to the baseball field. I remember it being extremely different in Life and Death, and being almost mad that it was so different because of how easy Stephenie Meyer gave it to Bo and Edith. They have, like, this weird ass argument that I can never pin down. They're just, like, tense. Bella doesn't want to run. Edward didn't tell her that she would have to run. He's, like, getting angry after they're kissing again. I don't know. It's just, like, a weird dynamic where they're being really weird with each other, and he's kissing her to distract her, and then she gets it's, like, the third time they've ever kissed, and she gets a little, like, too excited again, but it sounds like he was being less chaste than he was before in the kissing, and then he gets mad, and then she's, like, mad because he's mad. It's like, I can't even, like, it's a roller coaster over, like, 4 pages. I can't keep up.
I can't relate. Like,
yeah,
none of this is relatable. I like, during this scene, the only thing I can think of is, like, 2 17-year-olds having this kind of conversation, and it's bizarre.
Yeah. This is, like, the last moment that they have alone together before everything happens. So I feel like simultaneously it's too late in the story for them to be having the kind of arguments that they were having, like, before the meadow scene or something, or, like, around the meadow scene or whatever. I do get that the point of the conversation is to reveal that Edward says, I'm never angry with you. I infuriate myself for, like, putting you in danger all the time.
And this is also where he says, I love you.
He does say I love you, which I guess I didn't, like, track that was the first time he actually says it, but Bella tells us that it is.
It's, like, really high stakes for, and I've said this before, like, in justifying the way that Rosalie reacts to this whole thing that's about to go down. Like, he just told her I love you, like, 30 minutes before their whole entire world turns upside down, and she's probably still just, like, really confused, but he's, like, literally all in, I will protect you, we'll be together for the rest of our lives, like, you're my ride or die, like, right now. That's a lot.
It is a lot. It's also, like, right on the edge of the field, and, like, everyone can hear this.
Yes.
How embarrassing. How dare you?
I would be so embarrassed.
Yeah.
I feel like by now, if I were in this sort of circumstance or situation, I would be like, we can't have these conversations around your family. Like, if your family's within earshot, you need to tell me right away. And I refuse to have these conversations within earshot of your entire family. Like, no, ma'am.
Yeah.
Like, no.
She did not sign up to have no secrets with the Cullens at this point.
Absolutely.
Even Esme's like, was that you we heard, Edward? And Emmett's like, it sounded like a bear choking. So I don't know if they heard the exact conversation, but they heard the fact that they were, like, kind of fighting or whatever.
And I'm sure
he was laughing.
They were
kissing, laughing. Yeah, I don't know. It's so strange. I hate that. But then Alice comes over and she says, it's time. And it sure fucking is.
It's time. Supermassive Black Hole starts playing.
I heard it so clearly in my head when she said it.
So Esme is going to be the referee, which I believe, is that not called an umpire?
Umpire? I believe that it is.
Just another sports fact with Lori.
Sports facts with Lori. Lori's Sports Corner.
There's no one less qualified.
I was trying to figure out who was playing with who. I believe that the teams are Jasper, Emmett, and Rosalie versus Carlisle, Alice, and Edward. I gathered that from trying to decipher what the baseball things meant and who was batting and who was in the field and, like, whatever.
I didn't even try to do that.
Yeah, I tried to, like, remember how baseball worked. I managed to get it together.
Esme makes this comment like, I like to referee and keep them honest. You should hear the arguments they get into. Actually, I hope you don't. You'd think they were raised by a pack of wolves.
Pack of wolves, yeah.
She thinks that's
Is that
so
derogatory?
funny, I bet.
Yeah, that's derogatory at this point.
Yeah, I was like, this is really rude in context. Like, you should have scratched that from your vocabulary.
Yeah.
As soon as... And Esme, I feel like, is supposed to allegedly be the most understanding and warm towards the wolves out of all the Cullens. And, like, for her to be like, haha, pack of wolves. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Like, that's some, like, Rosalie shit, not some Esme shit. Like,
yeah.
You should be better.
I think... I don't know if Stephanie even caught it.
Maybe not.
I don't know. But it's, like, to me, so obvious. Emmett speaks to Bella for, I think, the first time. And I love this moment so much.
Yeah.
The thunder comes in, and Emmett says, eerie, isn't it? It says, Emmett said, with easy familiarity, winking at me. Like, I love him already. It's been 1 second.
Yeah.
Like, he was immediately comfortable with her and, like, immediately started joking around with her.
I'm sure Emmett is the type of person to, like, try to overcompensate with friendliness to make sure that Bella knows that he's cool with her. He just has to, like, stand up for his wife as well.
Rosalie, yeah. Here's what I meant with Edward talking about sports. Here's Edward being uncharacteristically into sports. Oh, okay. Imagine Edward, emo Edward, saying, "Sure. Are you ready for some ball?"
Sometimes I have to think about people I know saying those words.
Yeah. What kind of sentence is that? Is this, like, this whole part is just Bella? It's so heterosexual. It's Bella pretending to be interested in sports for her boyfriend, being forced to endure sports. 368 is Esme's backstory.
Yeah. She does it really matter-of-factly, and just, like, is very open with Bella, and is just like, that's why I jumped off the cliff. Like, my baby died, that's why I jumped off the cliff. And
remember how I jumped off the cliff, Bella? She went cliff diving. It was for fun, recreationally.
I feel like it's very realistic the way that she talks about her trauma, because I feel like I know a lot of people that just very matter-of-factly are like, oh yeah, like...
the worst thing that happened to me, yeah.
This is the worst thing that happened to me, that's why I tried to kill myself. And everyone's like, yeah. And then people that are not in that, or have not been in that frame of mind before, are like, always like, I'm very uncomfortable.
Right. Esme's really supportive of Bella and Edward. It's very sweet. She's like so happy to see Edward happy. It's almost like contextualized within her trauma. Like, the way that she is for all these younger-ish vampires is like, I don't know, her desire to mother. She even says that she has maternal instincts. It's very tied to, like, what happened to her.
It's interesting the way, too, she's, like, very accommodating to Bella. She's, like, trying to make it so that Bella can follow this game as closely as possible. Explaining to her, like, what's going on. And, like, you know, when Bella jumps to the conclusion this one's gonna be a home run for sure, she's kind of like...
we all need an Esme.
Yeah, honestly. I feel like as this chapter winds up and we get towards the plot, I have less and less to say.
I have less to say, yeah, for sure. Well, it's just a game of baseball. Like, there's not, like, we can't analyze anything about baseball.
Yeah, it's just they're playing baseball, and this is definitely, like, an example of, like, this book was perfect for, like, an adaptation to a movie, because the scene in the movie is, like, incredible. It's, like, it's so good. It's so much more fun to watch than it is to read, honestly.
It was a cultural reset.
It was a cultural reset.
Honestly, kind of, like, the perfect way to show off their abilities, like, before this, like, action sequence happens, so, like, we kind of know... like, what they're capable of, like, all of them. Okay, and then, the plot arrives.
Yep. Here comes, Alice has a vision, she gasps, and before anyone can even figure out, like, what's going on, before anyone can ask, Edward is, like, at Bella's side, and they're like, oh, what's going on?
I really love this line, it's kind of eerie, where they're all getting together, discussing what's happening, and Bella narrates, 7 pairs of quick eyes flashed to my face and away. I love that.
Yeah. It must be really jarring to have all of them look at her at the same moment.
Yeah.
Especially because Rosalie and Emmett haven't been there in the past when she's been with the family. And I think Jasper has been really clear to not look at her head on and to kind of, like, be a little bit more, like, withdrawn. What I love about this is Emmett is completely unconcerned.
He's
down. Like, 3, let them come. The steel bands of muscle flexed along his massive arms. Even everyone else, literally everyone else, is anxiously staring at Carlisle's face, and Emmett's just like, we got this.
They very quickly come to the conclusion that Edward cannot get Bella away in time. I think that's the assumption that they're gonna get a human scent and follow that trail, which might not necessarily be the case. Because instead of just letting her be in the field and then them smelling her in the field.
I guess the concern is that, like, they did just decide to follow Edward and Bella instead of going to the field, that it would just be Edward against those three.
I guess it depends on what's happening directionally, because are they coming from the same direction as the car, or are they coming from the opposite side? Because if they were coming from the opposite side, then they would have to get to the field before they go after Bella and Edward. So I guess we don't know that. Because if that were the case, then they could play it off any way that they wanted to, being like, oh yeah, like one of our people just got a human, he's gonna go eat her. Like, don't follow, that's his human to eat.
Yeah. They could, like, give Bella, like, a little gash on her arm and be like,
yeah,
oh, that blood spilled is because she's dead now.
Yeah.
Like, Bella is over.
Yeah. We canceled Bella.
I guess there's really not time for them to argue over the logistics of it.
Yeah, they don't know because they base this decision off of the fact that Alice just thinks that they're curious. Like, they don't know, even like from what Edward's hearing from them, they don't know like what kind of people these are. And
they're not hungry.
Yeah, they're not hungry.
Like, they're not actively hunting or anything. They're just kind of like wandering through. So they're like, maybe it'll be fine.
And I'd be so stressed though. Oh my god.
Yeah, and Edward like apologizes to Bella and is like, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have exposed you like this. Like, it's like, what do you mean? This could have happened anywhere. You know, it's annoying when like people apologize for things that are like clearly not their fault.
Right. Yeah. It's like, not right now. Like, stop it. This is not the time.
Yeah, it's like, this isn't about you also.
Yeah. It's about me and Bella the human. This line is given to Rosalie in the film. That won't help, I could smell her across the field, is said very gently by Alice here, and it like honestly breaks my heart. Like, and Edward's like, yeah, I know. It like I would feel so stressed out if I were any of them, except for Emmett.
Right.
In which case I would not feel stressed out.
I got it. Edward's like, Emmett is like, let's just fight right here.
And then on the last page of the chapter, there's like this bit about Rosalie staring at her.
And she looks angry.
And I love that.
Yeah. It's her right.
Yeah.
She's lived for like 80 years, like completely unperturbed. Like, completely under the radar, no conflicts with, like, anyone. And she's, like, had a very peaceful vampiric life until Bella waltzes in and makes things really, really complicated for her family.
And they haven't even talked at this point, and all this is happening. And they don't talk for, I don't know when they talk, if they talk in this novel at all.
I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like
I don't think Rosalie directly speaks to her.
If I were Bella, I would be so concerned all the time. I'd be like, oh my gosh,
so intimidated. Yeah. Ugh, the plot arrives.
Here it is. That's really the end of the chapter. Just like waiting for the
plot to come.
Nomads to arrive.
Great. Can't wait. Should we plug something before we end this episode?
Absolutely.
Let's plug a song that we like right now.
1 second.
Maybe this was a bad idea because you don't listen to music.
I really don't.
Name one song.
I can't. Welcome to the Black Parade. That's fine. I have a playlist for this exact moment. I will say the song Greens by B. Studwell.
I've never heard of it.
It's like I think they only have like 2 songs on Spotify, but they're like a queer artist.
I'm going to plug a song called Places/Plans by Skullcrusher.
Skullcrusher?
Yeah, it's not like metal or anything like that. It's very like soft and really beautiful, and the artist has an EP or an album coming out like soon. Cool. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for more. It's coming. I don't know when this episode's coming out, but there will be more.
There will be more.
Is this good podcasting? Can you tell I've done this many times?
Mm-hmm.
Great. That's all, folks.
Gender Forking. All of season 1 is now streaming.
To stay updated about the podcast, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at @genderforking.
For more Twilight content from us, you can follow our blog at bowlingshirtbellas.tumblr.com. For other inquiries, email us at bowlingshirtbellas@gmail.com.
If you're interested in supporting the production and maintenance of this podcast, head to patreon.com/genderforking. The music you are hearing is from O Lucifer.